What happens when you realize that the life you've been working towards isn't the life that you actually want? Something I've been noticing lately is a lot of people, especially millennials or people in their 30s, are waking up to the fact that the life they've built isn't the life they want. And it's not because they're lazy or ungrateful or that they've failed at building a successful life. In fact, they've succeeded at building a life which isn't really their own. They're realizing that they have been following the path that was laid before them, as their parents, their grandparents before them have followed. And they continued following that path until they realized how unhappy, unfulfilled, and miserable they were following that. They're living careers, they are redefining success, they are leaving behind expectations, and they are creating their own definition of success and what a good life looks like. Walking away from the life they built and choosing uncertainty and taking new risks instead of living the comforts of the life they already had. I've been noticing this more and more, and I think there's something much deeper happening beneath the surface than what it looks like. And this is what I want to explore today. Hello and welcome to the Journey Back Home podcast. I'm Isa Qureshi. This is a place where we reconnect with ourselves and recreate a life that feels like our own. Let's begin. Why are so many people starting over in their 30s? Because the 30s are when you start settling down, when everything starts becoming a lot more quieter, where you kind of take done chasing everything: achievements, qualifications, credentials, relationships, checking off your travel bucket list, and all of those things that you think you're supposed to be doing in your 20s. And when you enter your 30s, you kind of often have that moment of realization that, wait a minute, is this a life that I actually want? Or is this a life that I've been taught to want? Because there's a difference between the two. For many people, including myself, this is the first time we've genuinely asked that question. Growing up, many of us were handed a blueprint. Study hard, get a good job, build a successful career, find the right partner, buy a house, buy a car, make money, and that's the definition of success that so many of us have actually known and grown up with. While none of those things are inherently bad, but many times we inherit those definitions of success, those goals and dreams, before we develop the self-awareness to find out what is it that we actually want. Why does success often feel empty? Achievement and fulfillment aren't the same thing. Many people believe that once I get there, I'll be happy. I'll be happy when I get that job, that promotion, that money, that relationship, or get that house, that car, all of those things. And oftentimes we are going after one goal after the other. We are collecting qualifications and achievements and money and relationships like trophies or token to prove that we are good enough, that we have arrived. So what happens when you get there, when you reach that goal and you realize that the goal wasn't really the outcome that you were after? It was the feeling that you were chasing, the feeling of peace, of fulfillment, of connection, of belonging, of joy. And you begin to realize that there are other ways of achieving those feelings rather than just climbing another ladder or going after another qualification or achievement. But in saying all of that, it's easier said than done. When our whole lives have been programmed with a certain definition, a belief system of what happiness, success, joy, and fulfillment actually looks like, it's not that easy. Because leaving a job or leaving a career or leaving a relationship or moving countries or in reinventing your life isn't easy. Because you're not just leaving behind a job, a role, a position, a relationship, or a career. You are leaving behind an identity. And I think that's the most challenging bit for a lot of us. I find it really interesting how more and more people these days are reinventing their life. They're redesigning their life, they're rebuilding their life, and they're starting over. They are leaving behind their careers, their jobs, their relationships, they're moving countries, starting a business, or trying something entirely new. And I love seeing all of that. But I'm also worried that this has become more of a trend, more of a glamorous thing that everyone's doing it, so we should do that as well. I think social media and people have portrayed reinvention as something really glamorous, something really amazing, and it makes you feel like a hero. That's how courageous of you to leave behind a career, a successful life, and to start your life from scratch. And I'm not undermining that at all. It is quite courageous to take that leap. It's very scary to do that. And I deeply admire and respect all of those people who have done that because I know how difficult that is. But a lot of people might be going after that thing for the wrong reasons. Because what we have seen, especially through social media, someone left their successful career, they started content creation or they started a business and now they've become a millionaire. And their entire life has changed, and now they're living in mansions and they have a yacht and they have those fancy cars and all of that money, and their entire life has changed. And so a lot of people get amped up by, you know what, maybe I can do that. Maybe I should do that because it looks amazing. Who wouldn't want that? But the thing with that is, there's only a handful of people who have achieved that. And that doesn't come easy. It comes with a lot of hard work and consistency and persistence and resilience, which so many people are not willing to put in. What people don't see behind the scenes of reinventing your life is how scary it can be, how much uncertainty there is, how much confusion there is, how many times you have low periods where you are questioning everything, that why did you even do this? And that's something that I do want to show you. That's something I do want to share with you. Because aside from all of that achievement or success that we see on social media, which is usually a highlight reel of a lot of people, the truth is that it's not easy. It's not easy leaving behind a stable income, a successful job, or a career, or even a relationship you've been in for such a long time. Because it's not just the job or the career or the money or that person. It becomes your identity, your sense of self. It's how you know who you are and how you introduce yourself to people around you and the world around you. And that's how you make sense of it and how people make sense of you. And when you no longer have that, when you are untethered to that thing that gave you your sense of self, you fall into this limbo of who am I? Because if everything I knew to be true was because of this career, this job, this title, this role, then who am I without that? And that can be a terrifying phase for people to be in. A lot of people fall into deep depression and isolation and anxiety. And some people even commit suicide, sadly, because it can be quite terrifying. That's not to make anyone upset or to turn anyone away from reinvention or rebuilding their life or changing their career. If this is something you feel like you need to do, go for it, 100%. But I feel like I do need to show that side of reinvention as well, because a lot of people are unaware of what's happening behind the scenes, what that phase of your life looks like when you don't have certainty, when you don't know what tomorrow would look like, when you don't have something lined up for you, when you don't have a steady source of income, and you may no longer have the support around you, when friends leave you because they no longer think that you are successful or good enough for them, when your social circles change because You no longer are part of that job, of that world of people, and you can no longer identify with those people. And that can be a terrifying, lonely phase, which many people, I guess, don't talk about. And I'm pretty sure a lot of people can relate with that aspect. Reinventing your life is one of the most beautiful and important things I think everyone should do at any phase of their life and as many times as they want. And speaking of reinvention, let's actually have a chat about what reinvention actually is. What does it mean to reinvent your life? Because it's kind of like a renovation, you know? It's renovating your home, it's changing everything. Reinventing can look different things for different people. It doesn't need to be something dramatic. You don't need to all of a sudden leave everything behind and backpack to Europe. It doesn't mean that you have to leave your job on a whim. It doesn't mean that you have to dye your hair or get a new look. It can mean all of those things, but it doesn't always need to be dramatic. Reinventing your life could be, it can start small. It can start saying no more or setting boundaries. It can start with looking after your health more, joining the gym or a new exercise fitness class. It could look like learning a new language. It could look like starting um, a YouTube channel. It can be any of those things, picking up a new hobby, trying a new sport, joining a new social group or a friend group, a club, anything. It doesn't need to be something massive or dramatic to be considered a reinvention. Reinventing your life can just mean anything striving to become a better version of yourself. And that could look like a change in your habits. It could be changing your morning routine or evening routine or your lifestyle, your eating habits. It could be anything. It could be anything as small or as big as you want it to be and feel comfortable enough for it to be. What is really reinventing your life? I don't believe that reinvention is about becoming someone new. I believe that reinvention is unbecoming everything you're not. Let me say that again. I believe reinvention isn't about becoming someone new. It's about unbecoming everything you're not. Reinvention doesn't always need to be an addition of new things, new habits, or lifestyles. Reinvention can be something as simple as subtraction. It's letting go of habits or beliefs or thought patterns or mindsets that do not align with who you are. It can be about leaving a job that no longer fulfills you or a relationship that is toxic. It could be about letting go of habits which don't serve you anymore or conversations you no longer wish to be a part of where you feel like you're playing small. The key to reconnecting with yourself, the journey back home begins by removing everything that no longer serves you, that no longer aligns with who you are. And that is the goal. The goal is to become the most truest, most authentic version of yourself. And that begins by becoming clear on who you truly are. That begins through self awareness, understanding who you are beneath the masks, the pretense, the noise, the conditioning, understanding what you really want, what truly matters to you, what are your values, what is important to you, and what is not important to you. What are some of the negotiables or the non-negotiables of your life? What are things you're willing to compromise on, and what are things you're not willing to compromise on? What kind of people do you like being surrounded with? What kind of books do you like to read or content you like to consume? What kind of environments do you feel sustain you, make you feel supported, help your growth, make you feel like a better version of yourself? And eliminating all of those things that don't do that. People, places, things, environments, lifestyles that make you feel small, that don't support your growth. And it begins by those simple things, by asking yourself, how do I feel? what feels true to me? What do I actually want? Am I responding or reacting from a place of fear, from a place of people pleasing, seeking approval or validation? Or am I acting from a place of certainty, from a place of clarity and confidence, from a place of peace and fulfillment? Am I grounded or am I stressed out and afraid? How am I feeling in this moment? How do I feel with this person? How do I feel in this conversation? And by starting you asking those questions one by one, you can begin to become a lot more clearer on who you truly are. And that is the first step. All change begins with self awareness. And to become more aware is to spend more time in solitude and spend more time reflecting on your feelings, your thoughts, your behavior to understand yourself better. And in saying all of that, I also appreciate how hard it is to walk away from the life you've spent building for such a long time. How challenging it is to walk away from a life that no longer fits you or aligns with you, and how a lot of people stay much longer than they wish to because it's really hard. Because that part, that job, that career, that relationship, that lifestyle, that environment, those people have become a part of your identity. That gives you your sense of self, your sense of worth. One of the very first personal development books I ever read was The 7 Habits of Highly Effective Teens by Sean Covey, son of Stephen Covey. And one of the things I remember really clearly about that book was the very first page. On the first page of that book was a quote that said, "If who I am is what I have, and what I have is lost, then who am I?" And there was something about that quote that stayed with me all those years. Now, at 13, I didn't fully understand the depth of that quote. For me, I think my biggest loss was my Barbie pencil case. But as I grew older and I went through life's ups and downs and different challenges and experiences, I began to really understand what it meant. Because a lot of the times, our identity, our sense of self comes from our achievements, from our titles, from our roles, from our qualifications, from our relationships, from the life we've built. And without any of that, we often don't know who we are because that becomes our identity, our sense of self. And this is exactly what I went through when I left my research career. I went through a phase of, I don't know who I am anymore. Because anytime I introduced myself, I would say, "Hi, I'm Isa. I'm a researcher." Because research wasn't just my career, it was my identity, my sense of self. It was everything I had worked towards and built for nearly a decade. And without that, I didn't know who I was. But as I began working on myself and learning more about myself and let go of all of those labels and masks and conditioning, which, by the way, I'm still in the process of doing. But as I worked more and more on myself, I began to understand that I am not any of those things. I am what remains when all of that is gone. I am the person beneath those labels, those masks, those roles. And that's the person we all need to get to. Because the noise has drowned out our voice. Our voice that has been nudging at our soul, that's constantly telling us what to do, what not to do, what path is the right path. But we can't hear it anymore because of all of the distractions, that noise that's calling us out on how our life should look like and what we should achieve and what is expected of us. And therefore, we've all become so disconnected from ourselves. And we don't even know who we are anymore without those labels, without those things. And so, understandably, there's a lot of uncertainty. There's a lot of grief that comes with it because you're shedding a part of yourself that you once knew. You're letting go of all of those things you were identified with that gave you your sense of self and that helped you introduce yourself into the society. And without that, When someone asks you, who are you? What do? You kind of don't know. I guess you say, I'm still figuring it out. Because I am still figuring it out. And the grief is what a lot of people don't talk about. There is grief because your old self has died. And with that, have died all of that recognition, that identity, those achievements that defined you, that approval, that recognition by the people around you, and the relationships that came with it that no longer align with this version of you. And so there's grief in that. And just because you feel sad or upset doesn't mean that you made a mistake. This is just a sign that you're letting go of that old version of yourself and you're stepping into a new uncharted territory. And it may be scary, it may be uncertain, it may be overwhelming and confusing at times. But you need to know that this is the right path because you're letting go of who you no longer are and you're getting closer to who you truly are. And there is a beauty in that messy middle, as I like to call it. You know what this feels like? It feels like you're renovating your entire house while actually living in it. You can no longer recognize the bathroom and the bedroom and the kitchen, and everything looks chaotic and messy. You cannot identify what things were and how they used to look. And you look at old photos and you're like, wow, this is where I used to live. And now you can't tell apart anything. There are boxes, there's dust, there are tiles or whatever you're renovating, there's wallpaper and paint all over the place, there are rugs and rags and clothes scattered everywhere. For anyone who's been through a renovation, I guess you can relate with that. The chaos, the mess, the confusion, everything feels so alien. Even though you've spent nearly 10 years living in that house or apartment, it all of a sudden feels like, I don't know this place anymore. And you have a vision. You have a beautiful vision of what the new house or new apartment is going to look like. In your head or in those designing photos or through AI, whatever you use, you see what it's going to look like, the before and after. And it looks amazing. And the whole idea of it and how you feel you're going to be in that new kitchen of yours and how you're going to redecorate your workspace or your bedroom, it looks amazing. But right now, it doesn't look like that at all. It looks like chaos. And you cannot imagine that end result because right now what you see, it feels like no way this mess is going to look like that in the next few months. Like, I can't see that happening. But it does. It does happen. And it looks even more beautiful than you ever imagined because you went through that phase and you rebuilt everything and you survived that chaos, that mess, and you came out on the other side and you saw that beauty. You saw what it turned out to be. And right now, if you're in that messy middle phase, if you're in that reinvention, renovation phase, I know you can't see that end result yet. I know you can't see what it would look like, but I promise you, you're closer than you think you are. Just don't give up. Just keep going. Despite all the uncertainty, despite the overwhelming feeling, despite the confusion, you've got this. Whatever phase you're in of your life right now, whatever age you are, if you are in the process of reinventing or rebuilding or redesigning your life, I commend you, your bravery and your courage. And I see you because I know it's not easy. And one of the biggest fears that a lot of people who are reinventing their lives face is, what if everyone around me has their life figured out except for me? Because you're in that phase where nothing makes sense. You don't know what career path to choose. You are single or you are recently out of a relationship and you don't know if you're ever going to find another one. you are not making any money, or you're just living off your savings, and you're building a business and you don't know if it's going to work out or not. I can relate with all of those. And I know what it's like, that uncertainty, that feeling of isolation, that fear. And especially when you feel like everyone around you has their life figured out. They are checking off boxes. They are climbing up the career ladder. They are getting married. They are having kids. Someone's just bought a new house. And here you are in debt, without a job, building a business. You don't even know if it's going to work. Single, waiting for something to happen, for something to change in your life. And it can feel really overwhelming and chaotic and confusing. But I want you to know that looks can be deceiving. Just because it looks like so and so have their life figured out doesn't mean they have. Just because it looks like everyone is making it, everyone has everything put together, they are successful and they're living the life while you are at the crossroads of your own, doesn't mean that that's the reality. Because a lot of the times, from what I've observed and from what I know, behind closed doors, there are many people who are questioning, is this the life I really want? There are many people who seem to have it all and are unfulfilled or unhappy in their own life. No one has it all figured out. We are all figuring it out as we go. No one has complete certainty of what their life is going to look like. Even if they have all the plans, life doesn't always end up the way we want it to or we expect it to. So you're not alone in feeling this. And there is a sense of relief and reassurance. Not that we don't want other people to be happy, but because knowing that you're not alone in this, that there are so many other people who are still figuring their life out. And the bravest thing is not having certainty. It's not knowing what the next step looks like. It's courage. And courage is often confused with confidence. A lot of people think that they need confidence before they can take the next big step. But most of the times, courage isn't confidence. Courage is questioning things. It's uncertainty. It's admitting when something feels off or something feels wrong. Courage is writing up that resignation email. Courage is saying no to that person. It is ending a relationship. It is communicating how you feel. A lot of the times, courage is starting over. It's moving with uncertainty. It's choosing uncertainty over self-betrayal. And it's trusting that you have your own back, that you're willing to explore whatever presents itself, that you're ready to walk into uncharted territory because your gut tells you to. That is what courage is. Well, if you're watching this and wondering, what if I don't know what I want? That's completely fine. Because most of the times, clarity doesn't come before action. It comes after action. And that's okay, because most people don't. Not at least immediately. Sometimes the first step isn't knowing what you want. Sometimes the first step is knowing what you don't want. It's understanding that this isn't the job that I want anymore. This isn't the role I feel comfortable with. Or isn't the work that I like to do. Or this isn't the food that I like to eat. Or this isn't the place that I like to be in. Sometimes clarity doesn't come until after you take action. Sometimes you don't have to know what you want straight away, because many people don't. Sometimes it's about recognizing what you no longer want, what job you no longer want, what kind of people you no longer like hanging out with, what kind of conversations you no longer want to be a part of, what part of your own lifestyle you no longer like. And once you have clarity on what you don't want, the next thing you need is courage. The courage to take action. Because once you take the first step, then the next steps become easier. They start appearing and it starts making sense. You don't need to have the next 10 years of your life figured out. You don't need to have a full-fledged plan. When I left my job, I didn't have a plan. I just had a gut feeling and some certainty of this is what I no longer want. That's it. And I figured it out as I went. I took a sabbatical, I traveled, I did different courses, I tried new things, I took risks, and I continue to do so. And I am still figuring it out. I'm still in it. But the more actions I take, the more clarity I get. Because clarity comes from action. But to take that action, you need courage. The goal isn't to build the most impressive life. The goal is to build a life that feels like your own, that reflects who you truly are, and is in alignment with your true self and your values. Because maybe that's what so many people are searching for. Not more success or more achievements, but more connection with themselves. Because maybe the reason so many people are starting over isn't because they're lost, but maybe because they're finally finding their way back. Thank you for listening. If this resonated with you, subscribe to stay connected, and I'll see you in the next episode.